Jayaprakash Narayan, one of the most creative political thinkers of the post-independence period in India, and also who was not just a thinker, but some of his ideas have also been translated into the realities of Indian politics and political structure. Jayaprakash was born in 1902 in a remote village in the Chhapra district of Bihar, and was born in a middle class or even lower middle class family. But he was a good student, a bright student, and when a student in the almost the final stages of his matriculation at Patna College, and of 18 years of age, Gandhi came to the Chhapra district in 1920, and Gandhi was in the process of gathering support, mobilizing men and women for his impending struggle against British colonialism. And Jayaprakash, the young Jayaprakash, was highly influenced by Gandhi and joined his movement. And heeding to the call of Gandhi, he left college almost before his matriculation examination. And that was also against the wishes of his family. And they wanted him to be enrolled in Banaras Hindu University, which he refused. Instead, continued studies at some kind of a community educational institution found by nationalist forces. But also came to know that he could pursue his higher studies in the United States and could work his way there and pay for his tuition fees also there. We are not sure, at least biographies have not pointed us out the exact reason or from where did he get the information, but he left for USA in 1922. In the meanwhile, true to the traditions of his time, he was given in marriage, but he left his young wife here and went to USA for pursuing higher studies and enrolled first at University of California at Berkeley as a student in natural science. Later transferred himself to University of Iowa because he found it to be cheaper, and for the same reason to University of Wisconsin later on. And here at the University of Wisconsin, he came to meet someone who would change the course of his thinking, who would bring in new ideas into Jayaprakash's ideological world. He was a German called Avram Landy, an instructor in the German language department. Landy was an avid Marxist, and he has also translated many works of Marx and Lenin himself. Landy influenced him to Marxism, gave him books to read, books of Marx, Engels, and Lenin. At the same time, Jayaprakash also read M.N. Rai's work, particularly India in Transition. The total effect of Landy's influence and all his extensive readings into the Marxist literature, which he could lay his hands on, transformed himself into an ideological supporter of Marxism and also of the nascent socialist state of Soviet Union. From Wisconsin, he went over to Ohio State University because his mentor Landy went there, and also switched his discipline from natural science to humanities, particularly economics, and got his master's, bachelor degree in 1928, got his master's in economics in 1929, and planned to pursue his PhD work there. But his mother's sudden illness forced him to come back to India in 1929. So thus ended his 7 years sojourn in USA, where he had studied at 4 different universities, got his degree, and more importantly, have been converted into a supporter of Marxism and a supporter of Soviet Union. With that mindset, you're still young JP came back to India. It was in 1929 and found the nationalist movement almost at a very high pitch. And in the very next year, in 1930, Gandhi gave a call for civil disobedience, and Jayaprakash joined that movement. And he was dismayed or disappointed to find that the newly formed Communist Party of India, or none of its supporters and workers, were in the movement of civil disobedience against the British colonialists. And at that point, he started to distance himself ideologically, mentally from communism or Marxist-Leninist ideas. Jayaprakash continued to be in the movement in a very active fashion, organizing the movement, and as such, he was arrested in 1932 by the British authorities and sent to Nasik Central Jail in Pune. Here at the Nasik Central Jail, he came across other young men who were, by their ideological leaning, either Marxists or Socialists, but all of them were highly disappointed with the way the Congress party under Gandhi was progressing. They found that the Congress was talking about political independence, was leading movements for political independence by the British colonial powers, but was not so serious or had not paid a serious thought to economic and social freedom of Indians. They found Congress to be lacking in socio-economic vision. So they banded together and talked about forming a group, a political group, which would operate within the Congress and try to act as some kind of a pressure group within the Congress, but which would be committed to socialist ideals. Jayaprakash and others were also released in 1934, and in 1934 they came together to form the Congress Socialist Party, which would act as a group within the Congress Party, a left-leaning group within the Congress Party, and which would try to influence the Congress leadership towards socialist ideas, would try to bring their thoughts into Congress's ideas about independent India. In 1936, after the rise of fascism in Europe, the Soviet Union, the leader of the Communist International, gave a call for national fronts in various countries against fascist forces. And as such, the CPI approached Jayaprakash and his party, Congress Socialist Party, and also the Congress, for a national front against fascist forces. JP, as is always known, despite his gathering or increasing reservations against communism as an ideal or socialism as a state practice, agreed to form a united front with the communists to work together against fascist forces or the possible rise of fascism here in India also. But found almost that by 1938, that is within 2 years almost, he found the CPI, due to its predominant influence among the working class, mainly in the southern parts of India, were trying to come into control over the Congress Socialist Party. In a way, it is trying to take over the Congress Socialist Party. And that was the break with the CPI, and the CSP decided to sever the tie, break up the front it had with the CPI, and once again there is distance between Jayaprakash and the Communist Party of India. And this impending divorce got completed in 1941 when Soviet Union was attacked by the Nazi Germany, and suddenly the nature of the war, Second World War, turned from being a war among the imperialist powers into a people's war. And Soviet Union, being a part of the Allied forces in which there is Britain as another member, directed all communist parties not to oppose the British powers anywhere, but on the other hand, to support British war efforts against Nazism and fascism. And naturally, the Communist Party of India changed its course radically at that point of time. And that was the final death knell of Jayaprakash's somewhat not so brief relationship with communism as an ideal and Soviet Union as a practice, socialist state practice. Jayaprakash was now in a dilemma. He was neither a total follower of Gandhi and his ideals, and he has severed his link with the communist parties and communism in general, and he believed in armed struggle. So he was in a ideological no man's land in that sense of the term. But still, he continued his task of organizing Indian people against the British colonial power and organizing them for independent struggle. So he was once again arrested by the Britishers in 1942 and sent to Hazaribagh prison. And from that prison, he, along with some other inmates, escaped, scaling a very high wall with the aid of a rope made from personal clothes. And for almost a year, moved about throughout the territory of India, organizing or trying to organize armed resistance groups against the colonial powers. He was once again apprehended by the British authorities and arrested in Lahore in 1943 and sent to prison. And he was severely tortured in the prison now, and ultimately he was released in 1946. When he came out of the prison, India was almost going to be independent, and Gandhi, despite Jayaprakash's reservations against Gandhian ideals at that point of time in his political career, Gandhi was very fond of Jayaprakash and found him to be an authority in socialist ideals, and also liked his organizational abilities. So Gandhi in 1947 recommended that Jayaprakash be made president of the All India Congress Committee. But the conservatives within the Congress did not heed to Gandhi's advice or request, and Jayaprakash was not made president of the All India Congress Committee. In 1948, Gandhi died at the hands of assassin, and almost after his death, Congress party decided to expel all socialist members, all members who had allegiance to the Congress Socialist Party, from the Congress party itself. Thus, Narayan was now without any party base. And then, at the same time, he was also looking closely into Soviet Union and increasingly getting disenchanted with what he thought to be the dehumanizing aspects of a socialist rule, in which the material needs of individuals or citizens might have been satisfied, but they have been denied political freedom, and also they have been denied spiritual freedom. Then came the first general elections of 1952. In the elections, the Indian National Congress secured the highest number of seats. The next in number of seats came the Communist Party of India. At the third position were the socialists of various hues. That made JP into thinking, or forced him into thinking of how to organize the socialist forces into a single group. With that aim in mind, he, along with the Kisan Mazdoor Praja Party, merged into the Praja Socialist Party, PSP, thus bringing into a single platform all socialist forces who do not belong either to the Congress camp or naturally to the Communist camp. And this PSP became quite a powerful force. So much a powerful force that in 1953, the then Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru invited JP and his Praja Socialist Party to merge with the Congress, ostensibly, or it can very easily be understood, to form a much more stronger front against the rising popularity of the communists in India. Jayaprakash, reacting to the merger proposal, placed his demands on the Congress, which included a radical restructuring of the Indian economy along socialist lines, mostly on public ownership of means of production and more equitable distribution of national and natural resources. The proposals were so much radical or so much leftist in that sense, Nehru or Nehru's Congress could not accept the proposals, and the merger of the Congress and the PSP did not take place. At the same time, there's another ideological change was going inside Jayaprakash. In 1951, there started, maybe in a small way, a movement called Bhoodan Movement, led by Acharya Vinoba Bhave. And Vinoba, as the story goes, was he was always on some tours across India, looking into the actual conditions of people. And in Bihar, Vinoba once was requested by a group of poor people that they do not have any land to cultivate their crops, so can he help them to get some land? And he was in a meeting sort of way, and Vinoba asked or posed the question to the meeting that is there anyone who would give land to your brothers so that they may cultivate their crops and find their food? The story also says that one landlord on the spot offered 100 acres of land for these people. And this was the beginning of the Bhoodan movement, in which in the background of severe inequality of possession of cultivable and agricultural lands in India, as you all know, there are two alternatives. Either the government of India or the state governments could take over all the land and distribute among the landless peasants, landless people, or from collectives, agricultural collectives. Now, about agricultural collectives, there's a not so good experience with the Soviet Union or other Eastern European socialist countries. So Bhave thought that if he could, through his campaign, change the mindset of the landowners and ask them not to believe that they're owners but trustees of land, they're holding the land for others, to part with the land voluntarily, to donate it voluntarily to the poor people so that all may live. And thus came the concept of dhan, donation. And in this dhan, there is also the question of gram dhan, shrom dhan, prem dhan, and finally jivan dhan. And in April 1954, there is in Gaya was arranged the 6th Sarvodaya conference, addressed by Vinoba Bhave, and attended by the then President Dr. Rajendra Prasad and also the then Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru and other leading functionaries of the Congress party. And in this conference, on the second day of the conference, Jayaprakash, he was also attending the conference, made the public announcement that he was giving his life for the cause of Sarvodaya and Bhoodan Movement. That was his Jivandan, and moving away from actual politics. So at the age of 50, Jayaprakash severed all his connections with actual politics or political parties and started doing social work for the betterment or the improvement of the life conditions of poor people, mainly through this Bhoodan movement and Sarvodaya movement. But we cannot forget that since the age of 18 till he has reached the age of 50, for more than 3 decades, Jayaprakash was very much into politics, and he has seen the young Indian polity grow before his eyes, and he has found serious flaws built into the Indian political system, flaws which prevented, according to him, from becoming the democracy it was claiming to be. Democracy in the true and complete sense of the term. And in order to bring up or in order to bring about that change in Indian political system, in 1959 September, he published one of his most important writings, a plea for the reconstruction of Indian polity. In this plea for the reconstruction of Indian polity, Jayaprakash advocated a complete decentralized democratic system which has by now become a reality through our panchayat system. He elaborated a system of grassroots democracy which ultimately led to the national power structure, and also at the same time did away with the role of political parties. Now, Jayaprakash was a man of many parts and many activities. Once the government itself was moving into the system of democratic decentralization, he turned his attention to peace movements within India. He was almost instrumental in bringing the Naga leaders of the Nagaland rebellion in the table of discussion with the Indian government and accorded the Naga peace process. He was for a peaceful solution of the Kashmir problem. He took part in worldwide anti-nuclear protest movements. So he has retired from politics, but he could not take out the politics in him. And perhaps from this psychological state of mind, that he was disappointed with the nature of politics that is found in India, tried to rectify it in his own ways, but not being a part of any political party, of any organized political movement, so he was leading some kind of a secluded life. But from 1974, as you all know, after the Allahabad High Court judgment, there was a shift in the policies and mindset of the central government led by Mrs. Indira Gandhi, and in 1975 June, the government of India declared internal emergency, and all opposition forces were silenced, put to jail, and there was an impending threat of a dictatorial regime. Jayaprakash came out of his so-called political sannyas and gave his leadership to a broad front of anti-dictatorial forces who tried to bring back democracy into the Indian political system. This, and many tales about it. He was put to jail, even tortured at that age. But ultimately, all know that the emergency came to an end. There was an election in 1977. the Congress party lost the election, and Jayaprakash took the lead in forming a united front of like-minded parties into Janata Party, and Morarji Desai, as his selection or as the leader of the Janata Party, came to become the Prime Minister of India. But once again, at the very end of his life, Jayaprakash was disappointed. Janata Party, due to its internal dissensions, could not keep itself together. It was dissolved in 1979. The non-Congress ministry lost its majority. In 1980, later in 1980, the Congress party would once again come back to power. But before that could happen, in 1980, Jayaprakash died in 1979, a result of many tortures, result of a very difficult life he had led through. He died of kidney failure in 1979. Thus ended the life of an Indian to whom, despite his occasional ideological flirtations here and there, was a committed nationalist. To him, India and nothing other than India mattered, and he was always trying to find out how India, which he found, could be improved so that its ordinary people could live a better life.